Do you boys want to get into the foreign substance thing before we wrap up?
I was gonna mention that. It's pretty.
Because we kind of have to get into it. I know we're a Blue Jays podcast, but we do touch on some of the bigger overarching baseball stories, and this is massive. For anyone who doesn't know, the MLB has started instituting rules against foreign substance use on baseballs. It's something that Trevor Bauer has talked about a lot. When basically no one listened to Trevor Bauer talk about it, if you look at his spin rate jumped in, and he won a Cy Young last year. And it seemed like he wanted them to investigate this so bad. And today his spin rate was down, or last night his spin rate was down about 200 RPM. Even better.
Gerrit Cole's, yeah.
Yeah. Gerrit Cole's spin rate is the lowest it's been since his Pirates days. And for the first time all season, he gave up more than 2 earned runs, and he gave up 5 against the Rays in 5 innings. There's a lot of things that could happen from this. There's a video of James Karinchak. I think I sent to you guys. I know I've sent it to some other friends. He's a reliever for the Cleveland team. Watch him load up. You can hear the guys, because they were playing the White Sox, and it's the White Sox announcer that's mentioning it. You can see him here, I'll put it up to you can see him touch his stuff, like all of the fingers that are going to touch the ball. You can see him rubbing the inside of his glove to load up. This is a thing in baseball. This is a big thing in baseball. And the fact that baseball's taking it serious, this could get interesting fast.
And they really start, ever since those no-hitters happened, they started to, have to focus on it, because people aren't really enjoying these pitching duels. And no one is ever happy with baseball. When it was so much offense, people were complaining. When there's so much pitching, it's complaining. This stuff's been happening. It was so obvious this was happening earlier in the year. We talked about it. Like, all these pitchers were just getting off to amazing starts, and now they're going to start focusing on it. It will be interesting to see, even with our team, if anything drastically changes.
And in division, what's going to happen to the Rays? Like, because here's the thing. I don't want to sit out here and be like, this team's doing it and that team's doing it and all these teams are doing it. The Astros clearly did it with Gerrit Cole. Gerrit Cole clearly continued it. He's not doing it anymore. That's a lot of money that he got paid. We're going to see what type of pitcher he is. Trevor Bauer didn't win a Cy Young, but wanted to draw attention to it. He also didn't have the greatest start today. He wasn't atrocious, but he gave up a few more runs and hits and walks than he normally does. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to start to get interesting around baseball. Do we start to see what looked like an edge in pitching decrease a little bit? And who do you start to see it from? And what organizations start to falter?
Yeah. John Means is another one who grabs his glove a lot and whose spin rate has jumped crazily. He's just on the IL with a shoulder strain. Coincidentally, I don't know.
It's that there's a lot of guys to pay attention to. There really is a lot of guys to keep an eye on. And the funny thing is this made me remember, the organization that Karinchak originally came from. Remember the ball that got stuck to Yadi Molina's chest plate a couple of years ago?
Everyone thought it was so funny. How did that happen? Baseball.
And it's like, pine tar and blah, blah, blah. It's like, there was no brown marks. It was clear. This is the new wave. This is the stuff that people are talking about, because everyone knows about pine tar, but that changes the color. Right?
Yeah,
this is where it gets interesting to me, is what are they using? What are we going to find? What's happening?
Who do you think is most likely for the Jays to be caught with this?
Robbie Ray.
That's what I was going to say. I'm nervous.
He's had the biggest improvement.
How is his spin rate?
I was trying to think of guys with big time spin rate numbers. I think Matt's had spin rate number increases in spring trading.
We know Ryu is in the clear because he's like in the bottom of all that stuff.
That's true.
He's just legit.
He's just a pitcher.
And DeGrom's like that.
DeGrom's just broken, though. He's not a human. Yeah. He's a pitching. No. He's a pitching machine. Like, if you created, it's insane watching what he's doing now. That he's throwing 102 and like 94 mile an hour sliders. And DeGrom is insane. It's amazing watching him, and it's hilarious that the Mets are the Mets.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like around the league. It's just everyone's doing it, right? It's almost everybody. So. I don't know. It's almost like the steroid situation where it's just so many people are doing it. You can't just get this one guy.
But this isn't making baseball more popular. That's the issue. Steroids made everyone love baseball.
See,
yeah, it was fun.
That's the funny thing. It seems to be as widespread as steroids was, but it doesn't have the positive reaction, like ratings wise, that steroid did with the offensive explosion and the home run races. People aren't as interested in these Cy Young races. You know what I mean? It's just not one of those things. So it's been fascinating.
I think if you did not see 7 no-hitters the first 2 months, you wouldn't have seen as much focus. Like if there was 1 or 2 and people were still pitching very well, you'd be like, oh, this is just it's just such a thing that sticks in people's heads, and it's so national that everyone's like, what the fuck's happening?
And look at the people throwing them. Yeah. How many of those guys are established guys? I know no-hitters are always kind of random, but look at the guys who are throwing no-hitters.
Exactly. That was the thing. It wasn't just the elite of the elite, which again, it never is. And Philip Umber threw a perfect game. That is a thing that happened. But
Dallas Braden.
If there are 7, and not one of them is an all-star guy. That's kind of weird.
One of them was a Yankee too. So.
But he was the one whose spin rate isn't up. He's the only guy who threw a no-hitter whose spin rate has not increased this year. So that's just the Texas Rangers are horrible.
It's going to be fascinating to just keep an eye on this and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Because and who gets suspended and who does the MLB? Because there's also going to be a picking and choosing thing here. Who's going to fall apart? Who's going to get nailed to the wall? How is this going to happen?
It's going to be Bauer because they fucking hate him. They're going to make him the poster boy. No matter
but
what.
Cole has been linked to this stuff for a very long time. There's always been stuff. Oh, this guy sold this to Gerrit Cole and all this stuff, but no one cared. Now they do.
Exactly. That's the big one because he got the huge money too. He got the huge contract. He's part of the Astros that were already cheating. That's another thing that
I'm looking at Verlander too,
who had the
Mr.
resurgence, right?
Yeah.
As he came back to Houston. That's an interesting thing about Verlander is how much better.
Mr. Morals, Justin Verlander. We should talk about him.
Yeah.
Well,
you know all that, Anthony, right? Or no, Steve.
Because back in the day when he was very, very against domestic violence, and then they acquired Roberto Osuna, and he didn't care. Is that what we're talking about? I thought it was something. I thought it was something recent. I thought it was something recent.
No, he's always been
super.
This guy did steroids. Ban him
for
the
life.
Game now.
Oh yeah, exactly. Ban them forever. Exactly.
Unprovoked, just so annoying.
This is who he is until, again, the Osuna situation, which is worse. It's real life issues.
Yeah.
He backed down pretty quickly.
So it's a Brian McCann too. But to give Brian McCann credit, he was on the verge of tears when it came to the sign stealing situation. He's I don't want to do this. I don't want to use it myself.
Sure, he was.
But he just let everyone else do it. So.
Allegedly. It's AJ Hinch had nothing to do with it and tried to stop it. Yes, allegedly.
Well, AJ Hinch destroyed the cameras.
Allegedly. Again.
And then they had set it up right afterwards. And
right.